Let's face it, it wasn't the G20 summit, it was more like the G18 without the active participation of China and Russia. The United States, India, Saudi Arabia and the European Union announced that they'd build something called the Indo-European Economic Corridor, and according to this plan, the corridor will be divided into two parts, one starting from India and extending into the United Arab Emirates, and the other will pass through Middle Eastern regions such as Saudi Arabia and eventually connect to Europe. Biden even threatened that the construction of this so-called economic corridor will change the rules of the game. However, we do get a hint as to what all this is about when President Recep Tayyib Erdogan was hounded by Indian journalists about his views on the G20 summit. He didn't really want to address the question, he was avoiding it because he knew it had everything to do with China, to tackle China's Belt and Road Initiative.
One line on the summit and the declaration, please.
We do not want to create more conflict or provoke the war between Russia and Ukraine.
China's Belt and Road Initiative, whether you like it or not, has achieved good results, and the Americans, they simply can't sit still, and that's why they've come up with this so-called Indo-European Economic Corridor by using Narendra Modi. And in reality, can it work? You have to think logically. The corridor is planned to pass through Saudi Arabia and Jordan, but both of these countries have issues with Israel. I don't really want to get into boring finances, but something as big as this, as the Indo-Middle East and European corridor, will need a lot of money. And the Americans aren't ready to invest that much, and if they don't, it's guaranteed the Saudis will lose interest. You just have to look at America's Build Back Better plan after the pandemic. They promised $40 trillion in investment. So what happened to Building Back Better? Where's the $40 trillion? Where are we at? Nobody knows. Not even Biden. Also, you need to remember, Biden's term is nearly over. He has just over a year left. And if Trump makes a comeback in 2024, I'm afraid he will directly veto this so-called corridor. So when India, Saudi Arabia and the European Union discuss this plan with the Americans, they must be wary about the continuity of American policy, which simply can't be trusted.
Going to stop, but I'm not an isolationist. I'm a free trader, but I'm also a fair trader.
This so-called Indo-Middle East European corridor is all talk. It's laughable. It won't happen. The more similar plans the Americans propose, the more it proves the strength of the Belt and Road Initiative from China. And I'm sorry to say, I'm no big fan of China, but when they said it is the start of an Asian century, they meant it, and it's true. At one point in history, it was Saddam Hussein who was the blue-eyed boy of America against Iran. But today, it's Narendra Modi who's the blue-eyed boy against China. The Americans will continue to use and abuse, and Narendra Modi has now finally been trapped. This Indo-European Economic Corridor will be a disaster for India. Thanks for listening to the Independent Islamic Republic. Assalamu alaikum, have a wonderful night.